Welcome, I'm Jacob Rascone along with Jennifer Reyna. We continue to follow that breaking news of a school bus crash in Cleveland, and you're looking at live images of that crash.
Cleveland ISD says there were no major injuries. Let's say, we're going to send it over to Julissa Garza as soon as she gets there. But this bus is still on its side with a heavy-duty wrecker on FM 1010 in the Cleveland area around Plum Grove.
So it's been a couple of hours at least since this happened. And this is the second time this week that a Cleveland ISD school bus has crashed on the same stretch of roadway, both times carrying about 58 students. I think on Monday 59 and this time 58. And both times students were transported to local hospitals. Now, when they say no major injuries, there are no critical or life-threatening injuries or injuries that involve major surgeries. But we did see, Jen, right as we went on the air at about 9:30 something, I can't remember the exact time, but we saw students still being carried off on stretchers and put into ambulances.
They just uprighted the bus from heavy-duty wrecker there. Now, a Atascocita Fire Department did tweet out that they were dispatched to a reported motor vehicle accident involving this school bus that's on its side or was on its side on Plum Grove Road south of Cleveland, Texas. Initial assessment indicated 57 patients. What did we end up hearing?
58, I think they said, were on the bus. Mm-hmm. Okay, so those, because they were evaluated on the scene, Cleveland ISD put out a very brief statement that just said that there was an incident involving a bus, that the students were treated on scene, and that at least some were taken to area hospitals. Here is that statement. It really doesn't see medical personnel on site. Students will be evaluated at a local hospital out of an abundance of caution. Now, when we were on the air, we saw some students that were put onto another bus, and that bus then left. We assumed that it was going to the school. We don't know. But there were at least a handful of students. Jen, I don't know if, maybe there were, less than 10 students maybe that got on a second bus that left. And that was, had to have been at least maybe 90 minutes after the crash had happened in the first place.
Yes, and what you're seeing right now is emergency crews. Those are officials with hard hats on. This is an investigation that is going to take a while. They were making some markings earlier. With it being the second school bus crash for Cleveland ISD in the first week of school for 2025, this is certainly a detriment. Even though the school district is claiming no major injuries, we still, it's hard not to believe there wouldn't be an injury with that bus on its side, and you have to know that the speeds in that area are at least 35 miles per hour down 1010, if not higher.
Yeah, so what we don't know too, Jen, because you're pointing out some of the things that we're not sure of yet. We don't know, for example, how the bus ended up on its side in the first place, if there was another car involved, because if there was, we haven't seen it. Perhaps it was taken away before we went on the air. Cleveland ISD and this area here, about an hour north of Houston, if you're not familiar, it's a smaller school district, about 12,000 plus students, and you compare that to a lot of our districts, and it's on the smaller side. It is a district that has seen explosive growth in recent years. They were only at about 4,000 students just a decade or less ago. So here we are on the first week of school. Monday, a bus like this on the same stretch of road carrying 59 students crashed, and 36 of them went to the hospital for evaluation. As far as we know, no major injuries from that crash. And then today, this morning, we learn of yet another crash, also about 58 students on board. Many of them, it appears, taken to area hospitals, because when we got there, there were still just only a handful of students being put onto gurneys. 58 is a lot. All we saw were a handful of students being put into ambulances, and then a handful of students that were still there that then got onto another bus that we suppose was probably on its way to the school district on what is the third day of school.
And this is incredible because we don't see another vehicle involved doesn't mean that there's not one involved, but many things could lead up to a situation like this. You know, the driver could have had a medical emergency. There could have been dodging an animal or person crossing the road. Like, we just don't know the cause and if there was even another vehicle involved. But we do know this is the second Cleveland ISD bus involved in a school accident with children on board this week.
And this is really rare, as you said, in the first place, for it to ever happen, for it to happen twice in a week, extremely rare. So what do we know about the response from Cleveland ISD? Well, we know that it took a while for them to say anything publicly on their public Facebook page. But in that response, in that statement, Cleveland ISD said that they had reached out directly to the parents of the 58 students. So you imagine your child is put on a bus and you get a notification. What do you do? And we don't know. And so we wonder, and you can imagine what the parents might have done. Now, we've been saying that Julissa Garza, who is live on other breaking news this morning, was on her way to the scene. Julissa, I believe, have you just arrived in the area, and what are you noticing?
Yeah, Jacob, that's right. We just arrived moments ago. We can't be that close. I'll step out of the way to try to give you as close of a look as we can. You can see people are making their way. Just a few minutes ago, we saw the bus went from being on its side to being picked back up. Now, we know this is the second incident like this for Cleveland ISD. I was here on Monday. By the time we arrived Monday, that bus was already gone, but it was also here along FM 1010, and it really was only a few minutes from where we are right now. We were able to see the ditch. Again, we weren't there when the bus had rolled over on its side, but we did see that impact into the ditch and just how narrow these county roads are, especially out here. We had drove by the transportation bus location on Monday too to see if we could see the bus that was involved in Monday's incident, but I don't believe we ever got an update from Cleveland ISD on Monday on what exactly caused the accident. But I will say what I noticed on Monday that I haven't been able to notice today is that people were zooming along FM 1010, but it looks like there are some parents here with their children. We will be trying to talk to them and again try to get closer if we can, but as of right now, this is kind of where it's cut off. The road is also blocked off. They're turning people. We see the Liberty County Fire Marshal is here and a lot of other vehicles further down. Again, we really can't see much. I'm just giving you a look at what I'm seeing on the ground right now. We do know that no one was injured. These students will be transported just for extra caution, which is also something that happened on Monday. But as you can imagine, this is quite the shock for this to happen twice in 1 week and just days apart with still little information as to what exactly caused this. For now, I'm going to go ahead and toss it back to you. We're going to go try and talk to these parents who are here because we know school has started for so many, and this is not something any parent wants to deal with. You put your kids on the bus hoping they get there safely. You never imagine a phone call like this.
Absolutely. I mean, I know that there were businesses located nearby, so I'm assuming maybe there was a witness, or at least once they heard the bus crash and something go awry, that folks went into immediate action and can tell you what at least they saw, Julissa.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. We are actually standing next to what looks like a shopping center. Looks like it's a taqueria, meat market, and some other things. I'm seeing some cars pull in, so that could possibly be family members. Again, I'm not entirely sure. We just arrived moments ago, so I'm explaining to you all in the studio and at home what we're experiencing right now as we work to get more information.
County Road 7000, our executive producer just told us, so we were wondering earlier, Julissa, where along this road exactly did this happen? Did you say, and forgive me if I missed this, how far from where you are or where the bus is did the other bus crash on Monday? Do you know how close these bus crashes were to each other?
No, not the exact distance, but also on FM 1010. Right here is FM 1010, and then the County Road 7000 you're talking about is right behind us, behind our photographer. That's the intersection. But I will say it had to be only just a few miles away, because as we were making our way, I remembered seeing the Family Dollar, a gas station, all the same things I saw as we were going to Monday's location. And then we just went up a little bit further, not too much to get over here.
Got it. Now, you mentioned you thought that among the people that we're seeing from Air 11 walking around, looks like some adults, maybe even some children. Did you say you thought that maybe some of those walking around might have been children or parents, or forgive me again, but if you could repeat that, we're curious about who is around there, and we know that you just arrived on scene, but just what it is that you're noticing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, right over there we see some more people walking this way. That looks like some adults, but earlier we saw some children. It looks like parents, some of them going into the store right now that's over here. I think it's a carniceria to get some water, it looks like. But that's really what it looks like we're seeing, Jacob. Some adults, some kids, not sure if they were part of the bus or other children who go to Cleveland ISD. Still a lot of questions. We're hoping to be able to grab these families to try to talk to them before they head out. So I'm going to go ahead and just toss things into the studio so that we can go and see if there's any information they can share with us before they head out.
Absolutely. And on your left, thank you, Jalissa, you're seeing the video from earlier. Look at the paramedic carrying the child, looks like a little girl, to put her into the back of the ambulance. And then, these are just the video from earlier, the child, it looks like, on a gurney being loaded into an ambulance. And that was one of, I think we probably saw, Jen, maybe 4 or 5 of these similar, paramedics with the gurney. Here's another one of those. And at least 1 or 2 look like they would have been adults, and the others looked like children.
I mean, I think it was a half dozen who looked like they were loaded with ambulance personnel. We also know that this road has been blocked since right around 8 a.m. And a lot of the personnel and the people who were taken from a gurney back to the county road were actually in that far left side where the grassy area was and where the trees were. And we still didn't have information whether or not all of those people were from this bus situation and the bus alone, or whether there were other vehicles involved. We have not yet heard. All we have seen is confirmation of this bus on its side and some possible tire tracks in the grassy area that could or could not be related. And on the right part of your screen, you're seeing live video, an update of, those ambulance departing from the scene. They're no longer there, and that is a heavy-duty wrecker on the front end of that bus. But we've seen, 3 school buses in the area sort of go by and transport some of the children, or at least get in the area and make a U-turn. We
saw initially 1 school bus being loaded with children who appeared to be just right there next to the crash. And then, yes, we saw a couple more buses go by. It's not clear what they were doing to me. You brought up a good piece of information that gives some context here. The road was shut down beginning around 8 o'clock. So this video from the left-hand side of your screen showing students being loaded into ambulances is nearly an hour and 45 minutes after this crash happened. Now, when a crash like this happens and the authorities are alerted, they are so fast to get there. And to have students and maybe an adult, it looks like, loaded an hour and 45 minutes later, it tells you what were they doing for the other time? Probably loading other students.
Or maybe they were sitting in the grassy area, because I know a Atascocita Fire Department was called, so we don't know their response time, and maybe they were sitting there seeing how they were feeling, and then maybe they felt a little worse, and so they said, well, you need to be checked out. I mean, we just don't know what the time delay was and when they needed the help to either be transported. They're just unanswered questions. So many questions.
Right. So in other words, if we saw, say 5, 6, 7 people loaded onto ambulances, and if we then saw same amount, 6, 7, 8 students loaded onto a bus, that's 12, 13, 14 people. So what about the other 30-something students that were on the bus? they were taken away before we got on the air within that hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes.
Well, remember we saw quite a few that were gathered in the grassy area that were just standing. They looked like they were saying bye to mom or dad. They did not appear to be injured, and then they got on that first bus.
Right, yeah, so those 6, 7, 8 people, however many, plus the 4, 5, 6 who got onto ambulances, the other 30-something students were already gone from the scene when we got on the air an hour and a half after this crash happened. On your left, the video from earlier, and on your right, the video from right now. That's a live look at the heavy-duty wrecker beginning to take that school bus away. This is, if it started at 8 o'clock and we're 2.5 hours later, this is about the time, Jen, maybe that takes for the heavy-duty wrecker to clear the scene.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, right now you can see that heavy-duty wrecker taking the bus that was flipped on its side slowly but surely down FM 1010. This is north of Plum Grove, south of Cleveland, east of 69 on an FM road where, it was earlier this morning. We had clear visibility. We had no rain, but you never know. Was there a medical emergency from the driver? You just don't know until we gather more information, which Julissa Garza is trying to do right now.
Right, so Julissa Garza got to the scene about 10, 15 minutes ago or so. We heard from her. She said that she had seen what looked like parents, maybe even some students walking around. She went to go try to talk to them. As soon as she's able to talk to anyone, we'd love to be able to talk to her again. But most people now are gone. It was 45 minutes or so ago that this area of FM 1010 was filled with people. The bus on its side, the ambulances, the cars that mostly were police vehicles, and then the group of paramedics and the students that were still there, and those being carried away on stretchers. And now all we have left is 1 or 2 police vehicles, 1 fire vehicle, the heavy-duty wrecker, and the bus being prepared, it looks like, to be taken away. Now, I can't tell, Jen, and maybe you can, the damage on the bus, I can't tell if another car was involved. It just looks like there are a bunch of dents and scratches on the side of the bus where it landed.
Earlier when we were looking at the video, it didn't appear that there was any major front end damage. I didn't see major tire tracks. So I personally was thinking, this was not like an FM head-on type of collision, but that's just me making some assumptions. Just based on the scene and what I saw, it just looked like the school bus was flipped on its side. And that was all that we could tell. They didn't zoom in enough for me to see like broken windows or anything like that. But I do want to repeat what Cleveland Independent School District put out on their Facebook, an hour ago, just to bring people up to speed. Now, they did say that all students were immediately and safely removed, and they were provided medical attention, that medical personnel were on site, that students were evaluated at a local hospital. They were saying out of an abundance of caution. But then we saw several being transported via gurney to the ambulance. And, this investigation is obviously not wrapped up. It's still under investigation. And we'll just have to see what ends up being the full investigation details at this point. I know that I see that personnel are washing down the pavement, which is typical. There could have been some oil or some radiator fluid out of the bus that was flipped, which is completely normal for, quote unquote, that to be a semi-hazmat situation, or where a fire department washes down the pavement so that it becomes a safer situation for drivers, any debris, etc.
Julissa pointed out earlier that the Monday school bus crash, which she also went to after we learned about it here, that the school district never updated us on whether or not there were any injuries. We know that 36 students went to the hospital.
Well, and my concern was it the same group of students who were going to and from the same school? We don't know, but I'm curious.
Now, the other thing that we didn't hear that we wanted to hear from Cleveland ISD, and you can see that the chopper is now taking off because, as they always have to do, they have to refuel. We don't know what caused the Monday crash, which everybody wants to know. Why did the school bus with 58 students crash? And the district has not said. Okay, now you're seeing the video from about an hour and a half or so after the crash, where there are still students. It looks like parents. There are a bunch of paramedics. And we have been on top of this now for more than 45 minutes. And the headline, if you're just joining us as we prepare to wrap up, is that today, for the second time this week, a school bus from Cleveland ISD crashed on the same stretch of road as the Monday crash, FM 1010. That's about an hour north of Houston. 58 students on board, all evaluated, many of them taken to local hospitals. Thankfully, no major, meaning no life-threatening or serious surgery requiring injuries, but students carried away on gurneys. All parents, I should say, notified.
And our Julissa Garza, who we just spoke with earlier, she will be live on our noon newscast with the very latest. So thank you for staying tuned with our digital coverage. We will see you at noon.